Okay, we are in siman kuf mem aleph. We're up to sif yud beis. Siman kuf mem aleph sif yud beis. We're up to the fifth or sixth year. Sixth year already. Okay, sif yud beis. So as we established yesterday, even though there are differing opinions, we do paskin that we do say Shechayanu by day as well. So when you say Shechayanu by day, and as we said, that's the ikar zman of the rest of the mitzvahs, and therefore yichavnu gam al mitzvahs mishleich manes matanas levyenim usudas purim. In other words, you can't by night have in mind the mitzvahs of the next day, because there is no chiyuv for them. So you have to wait till the next day. And then when you make the Shechayanu, have in mind that you're also making the Shechayanu on the other three mitzvahs. Gam al mitzvahs elu. And in addition to that, the person who's the chazan has to have in mind that he's also having in mind that he's having in mind to be mitzi everyone for those as well. And the same thing is when you go on Mivtzayim. You're going to go on Mivtzayim and you're going to lay for people, so you should mention to them that they should, if it's by day, that they should have in mind to be Yetza this bracha for the other mitzvahs as well. So you announce that we're all going to have in mind to be Yetza the brachas and Yetza the kriya, and in addition to that, also for the other mitzvahs of the day, we're going to have that in mind in the brachas as well. Fine. So that's what comes out from there. Sif Yud Gimel. The person who's going to lay, you have to have in mind that you're actually being Yetzi other people, right? You can't just be reading it out loud. Now, what does that mean? So usually what that means is that before, according to the Mishnah Berurah, the way he understands it is that before you start, you should have in mind that you're going to be laying this and everyone is going to be Yetze, and then that's it. You don't have to consistently be thinking throughout that I want to be Yetze everyone, I want to be Yetze, I want to be Yetze everyone, I want to be Yetze. You don't have to go through the whole thing. You do it once in the beginning and that sets it up for the future. Now, if a guy's a chazan, which means he gets up and he claps on the table and he says, everyone listen and shasha, and he makes the brachas, even though he didn't actually have in mind the pashtus, it counts. I remember when I was in Koilel, there was the Rav of the Koilel, so he gave a shir once. So he was mentioning that a guy had gotten married, and he came to him, whatever it was, a week too later, I don't know. And he says he has a big problem. He says, what's the problem? He says he was under the chuppah, and when he said Arei Mikodash, he didn't know. He doesn't know if he had a mind to do the mitzvah, or he was just like, saying the words. The Rav tells him to say it, so he said it. He doesn't know if he had kavanah. So he told him, Rabbi Halier has a very, soft way of speaking. So he goes, don't worry, your mother-in-law was there, your father-in-law was there, the Rav was there, the guests are there. Trust me, you had kavanah. So sometimes people, they get caught up and they say, I don't know, there's maybe OCD or other things. Did I have kavanah? Did I not? The beginning, the end. You have in mind in the beginning once, and especially if you were the chazan to a pashtus, you had in mind that someone, you made a big student that we're about to start laning and getting everyone quiet. So it's okay. But you should have in mind, and for sure the people listening, they should know as well. Fine. The gam, not only the person laning, but as we said before, the person listening also has to have in mind that he's being yotze his mitzvah by listening and listening to every single word. He has to make sure to hear every word. Now, what does that mean? If he even misses one word throughout the whole Megillah, he's not going to be yotze the mitzvah. So the person who's reading has to be very careful. That what? When everyone is making noise and all this stuff they do when they say Haman's name, and on the bottom he says our minig is we only make noise by Haman when it's together with the description, like Haman Ara or Agagi or whatever, something like that. So then, when the chazan has to be careful that yishtoik ad yavar harash legamri, he has to be careful and quiet until it gets completely quiet, and then he can continue reading. If he tries to read and cut everyone off while they're in the middle of making noise, then people won't hear. So that's not going to work. Now, there are, what I saw somewhere is that when it comes to the Hamans that you don't make noise, and this is especially important on Mitzvayim where people don't know specifically how it works, that you should read through it quickly. An example would be when it comes to the Haftarah, the brachas after the Haftarah. So the first bracha at the end of the Haftarah, we don't make a bracha. You don't answer Amen. Yeah? So over there, the trick is, or whatever, is that you should quickly read into the next, because it seems like it's the end of a pasuk, of a bracha, but it's connected to the next one. So therefore, you don't want people to say Amen in the middle. So the same thing here, when it comes to these Hamans that you're not going to bang by, kind of go through quickly. Obviously, you're going to announce before that we only bang by certain ones, but no one really listens anyway. So you make sure to go through it quickly. Yeah. Right, they don't know, they don't register, it's a habit. So you just kind of don't give them the time to make the noise, and then you can move along quickly. But the best solution is Rov and Nachan Sheyil Kol Echad Megillah Ksheira. Everyone should have a kosher Megillah. And if everyone has a kosher Megillah, Kadesh Yemer Ba'atzmai Mila B'Mila B'Lachas, you could say every single word quietly. Pen La'yishma Teva Achas Min HaKreida, in case you wouldn't hear a word, you'll be Yetza anyways. And in addition to that, V'chein Kol Isha Chachma slave, also every lady, not just every man. Also, because women are also mechuyev. Sheimad des be'etzes nashim, and they're in the etzes nashim. So also, imasher, if they could, matayv liyes la megillah ksheira likra metecha, it would be wonderful if she could have her own kasher megillah. Kisham kasher lishmaya, because it's much harder to hear in the women's section. Va'anashim mechuyav is kamei anashim, and the men are just as mechuyev. Then he mentions something about kiddush shavana, but that's something else. So, what taka happens if you miss? So we'll come to that in a few sifim. Because it does happen that you might either miss or you might think you miss. So if you have your actual kasher Megillah, then it's fine. You just read and catch up, yeah? So you miss a word, people you're not sure you heard it, so you read it yourself and continue reading the Megillah until you catch up to the Chazan. But what happens if you don't have a Megillah, you have a Chumash? So we'll see in a second, in Sif Tezvav, we'll get to.
Why does it matter?
Because if you miss even one word, it's not kasher. You can't hear it out of order. So as soon as you miss one word, you're done.
What's the Chumash and actual Megillah in regards to carrying the prayer?
So no, it's not so simple. No, it's a good question.
You're still hearing the same words.
No, because if you didn't hear the word, then if you read it from a kasher Megillah, then you just read the Megillah, so you're kasher. What's the problem? But you read it to yourself. But if you don't have a kasher Megillah, then you can't read the whole Megillah that way. So that you should what?
A copy of the Megillah, even if you don't have kasher.
Okay, so we're gonna get there. Very good point. And that's what we're going to get to soon. But for now, the simple halacha that everyone knows, if you miss a word, you're not yotze, which I always thought till a couple of years ago, that's it. You miss even one word, and then you wasted all 20 minutes. So it's not so pashut. So let's see, we'll get there shortly. Right, depends who's laning, I guess. Okay, Sif Yudalad. The person who reads the Megillah has to say all the Aseres B'nei Haman, V'gam Tevas Aseres, including the word, the 10, Hakol B'neshima Echas in one breath. Without breathing. Then why do we do that? To show that Hashem kind of destroyed them all at once. So all of them together, even though there were 10. The minig became that it's preferable to start the one breath from a few words earlier where it says Chamesh Me'esish. From there, now, b'diavad, let's say a person couldn't do this. If you breathe in the middle, yotza, it's fine. It's just an added thing that we like to do. 1 second. Oh, another interesting thing that I saw is that when you're reading these 10, so there's there's S, yeah? The S this, S this, S this, S this. So you should be careful as you're reading it that you're reading the right S to the right name, right? Because
what is?
What do you mean?
They're all S?
Oh, whatever. I'm not getting into the Nakudas. I'm just saying the word. You have to make sure you're reading the right word to the right one because it's all the same. It's a list of the same ones right on top of each other. So it's very easy to just go S and you're not even looking at it kind of. So you have to make sure with your eyes that you should actually be doing the right one and reading the right one from the right that's appropriate for that name and not mixing them all up, which is something that, it's a little challenging to do that while you're trying to hold your breath and do everything else. So, but you should try to do it. It is possible. Now, he says some people have a minig that everyone says it. So he says and he says he doesn't want them to do that. Only the Balkeda should say it. And everyone else should listen. Now, on the bottom it says that our minig is that the tzibur keder we do read it first, everyone, and then the chazan after. And then the kids will also bang when you say Haman's name as well. Now, why is this? Where did the minhag come from? Because basically there's two parts. There's you could be Yoitza the Chazan, but the added element of saying it all in one breath, that you can't be Yoitza from the Chazan. In other words, there's two different things. There's listening to the words, you can listen to him. But the chumrah, if you will, of him saying it all in one breath, you can't be Yoitza that from him. It's a separate individual thing. So therefore, you should do it by yourself, and this way you're able to fulfill that as well. So that's where I saw somewhere where that came from. But then the Chazan will read it again out loud after also to be Yetze anyone that doesn't have a Megillah, to be Yetze the reading and everything else that comes along with it. So that's why we do both. Now, in addition to that, when the Chazan says that the Perek Vav, that Balayla hu nadna shnas hamelach, so over there, Yagbia Koili raises his voice, Kisham Maschel Ikar Anes, because that's when the miracle kind of like really kicked off. Now, when he mentions this letter. So Yanana Asa Megillah, he should shake the Megillah to show that it's this one. Now, if you look in the bottom, I'll get to your question in a second. If you look in the bottom, he says, number one, V'noyegin l'nanea, Gad k'shvikoyne yigeres epurim hazayis hashenis, that we actually do the shaking of the letter twice. When it says yigeres hazayis and yigeres epurim hazayis, we do it both times. And then he says, in addition to that, b'pasuk ches, or b'perek ches, Yud Aleph, Koinim, Laharig Ula Abed, and then, right, that's the way it's written, and then we say Vilaharig Ula Abed. Yeah, we read it again, and we add the Va. And then with Perek Tes and Pasuk Beis, Koinim V'ish Le'amad Bifnehem, and then we read it again, V'ish Le'amad Lifnehem. So we do both, we don't replace it, but we read it twice. You don't switch, you read it twice. Yes, you had a question? Meaning you read it as it's written in the Megillah, and then you read it again with the slight girsa change, the Kri and the Ksiv. So you read it again. Perechas and Perektes, where it says La'aroi Ula Abed, and then you say Vila'aroi Ula Abed, and then when it says V'ish Le'amad Bifnehem, and then you say again V'ish Le'amad Lifnehem. It's Kri, Ksiv, whatever, yeah. So we do both. Okay, and then in Perek you do it again, but you had a question before that. No?
Yeah.
And that's what you said, that we can look like where the what's it called, the congregation used to say with the chazan.
Yeah.
Part, and some people do it.
And some people don't. You said what you said?
You said we do both for something.
Oh, I meant both, as in the tzibur and then the chazan. Meaning that there's two different things. One second. There's if the chazan does it as yetz everyone, and then it's if the tzibur does it out loud. We do both, as in the tzibur first does it out loud, and then the chazan does it again after to be yetz everyone else. That's what I meant. We do both. No, I think most people probably do it at this point. I don't think it's only Chabad.
Can I use the whisper?
Yes, I don't know that for sure, but I imagine. Okay, weiter. No, that was to him. You I said yes. Okay, next. Tezvav. Now we come to what you said, and unfortunately you're going to miss it because you're going to be out. But we'll come to what you said now. Sif Tezvav. Mi sheyesh lefana Megillah psula or chumash. Let's say you don't have a kasher Megillah. You have a Megillah that's puzzled, so it's missing. Depending on, again, it's hard to make a Megillah puzzle, but somehow you have a Megillah that's puzzle. Or you have a chumash. You're using just the book. So then lo yikrim shliach tzibur. Don't read it along. Because if you read it along, you're not going to listen. You're going to be listening to yourself. And what's the problem if you listen to yourself? You're not Yaitse. You have to listen to the guy reading it from a kosher Megillah. But here comes in what you said. That let's say you missed a few words. Let's say you missed a few words. So if you have a kosher Megillah, then it's not a problem. You just go back and you read from the kosher Megillah until you catch up, and who cares? You read it yourself, no big deal. But here you have another kunz, which is that even if you have a chumash and you're reading it from a printed version, which is not kosher, but nevertheless, you should quickly catch up and read those few words, right? And then it will be, at minimum, it would be as if you read from a Pasal Megillah. Or if you read Baal Peh. Let's say Baal Kohen is reading and he realizes a few words are cracked off. What does he do? He says it by heart and he continues and it's kosher. As long as you're not missing Reiv of the Megillah. So if you have a Chumash in front of you and you miss a few words, so then all you do is you continue reading it to yourself, right, quickly, because you don't want too many words to miss, and then you catch up and you listen again to him. So you didn't lose the whole thing. Even though we say that if you miss one word, the whole thing is disqualified, that means if you miss the word and then you just listen further from there, so then we know that you can't read a Megillah backwards. So you missed the word, so you're done. But if you manage to insert those few words, so then you just did it Baal Peh, which Baal Peh you could read a few words Baal Peh, and then you catch up and then you're good to go. So use a chumash, and if you hear you're missing a few words, right away read it quickly and catch up again, and the chazal will take over. What?
Actually,
say again?
I was anyone that just hears the Megillah process what's being said.
Wait, what was your question?
Let's say someone doing the Megillah. Do I have to know the next word in it?
You said something about ADHD. Is that what you said?
How is someone with ADHD not focusing supposed to be able
to? So there's two. So it's a good question. There's two things. Number one, maybe they could take whatever thing calms them down before. That might be helpful. But there's another thing I remember once seeing, and I was trying to look for it again this year. I couldn't find it. I think according to Alter Rebbe, it's not puzzle, meaning you're not disqualified unless you have kavanah to do something else and to not listen. Okay, so in other words, if you're sitting there and while you're listening, you start spacing out and you're still listening, you're just not focusing, it counts. It's good. It's only when you have in mind to do something else and to take away your attention and not be Yaitza, I think, even. then it would disqualify you. So if you know Chabad house, there's a lot of places you go and you look around. Most people they're kind of listening, but they're totally distracted. Or you see people play the video. How do you play video? As long as you're not intending to exclude yourself and you're listening, then it counts. Most people don't know the language either, so they're listening, but they don't even know what they're hearing. So, but nevertheless, it would still kosher. I think if I remember seeing it once, I couldn't find it again, but somewhere that unless you have in mind to exclude yourself, you would still be included. Um, where did that come up? I think it came up in davening. Maybe I'm trying to remember exactly where it was. Where we're just not having in mind to be Yetzer won't help you. You have to dafka have in mind not to be Yetzer. I think it was by Shabbos candles or bracha for. I think we'll get there later, maybe about doing kiddush and daven. I don't remember exactly, but there's something about that you have to dafka have in mind not to be Yetzer. Otherwise, you'd be included. So in this case, also you could be included in a good way, meaning without having too much intention, you could be included. Okay, now va'afilu imu yichaven shema yishma acher mashu kaida. No, I'm sorry. Va'afilu imu yichaven. Even if you're reading from this non-kosher thing and you are listening. And you're going to read along with him, but you're also listening. Don't do that because Shema Yishma Acher Mashu Kaida. Maybe someone else will hear you. And they will get distracted. So either you or someone else. So better don't read from it because if they listen to you, they're not going to be Yetzer because you're reading from the Chumash. Similarly, no one should help the chazan. Like sometimes you have by Kriya Satayra, someone could help the chazan. So people shouldn't do that if they're doing it Baal Peh also. For the same reason, because then they're not going to hear, and other people might not hear. They might focus on the guy instead of listening to the Balkaida. So because of this same thing, the psukim that we say out loud, like the ones that have to do with Geula, Yeshihudi, whatever, so Tzara Shlich HaTzibur Lachzer, the Chazan has to read it again. Because the fact that people read it outside, you're not really Yetzer with that. You have to go and hear it again from inside the Ksav of the Kosher Megillah. So therefore, he should read it again. Sif Tezai. Mishakar Yatza B'Kriyas Megillah. Let's say you guys are going to go on Mivtzayim, and you already heard Megillah, especially like we mentioned yesterday, that the Indian of doing it B'Rev Am Hadas Melech. You want to hear it in Shul. So you listen to it in the morning, and then you go on Mivtzayim. So now, you're going to read again, but the whole reason why you're reading is to be mitzi other people. So if the person who's listening needs to be yotze, so then if he's yodeya ba'atzma, if he knows himself how to make the brachas, he should make the brachas. So you go on Mitzrayim, you ask the guy, are you okay with Hebrew? Maybe you have transliterated, maybe you can help him along. But the best thing is that he should make the bracha himself, because he's the one who's being yotze, the mitzvah. You're just reading it for him as a shliach. Better he should do it. Fine. Now, if he can't, then you could do it and you could be made to them. It's not a problem. Now, v'imi isha, what if it's a woman? So let's say you're going and you're leading only for a lady or a few ladies. So toiv yeser shakayri yivare. So here he says there's two options. Either you should make the bracha yourself. That would be the better way to do it and not them. And over here, you don't say likraya Megillah, you say lishmaya Megillah, that they should listen, because the mitzvah for a lady is to listen more than to read. And I think the vart is we never give a chiyuv for a lady to do anything that she has to do in public. Meaning, because kol kfud bas melech prima. Women are tznius. They don't like to do things, or at least spiritually, they don't like to do things in a public setting where they become the center of attention. So likraya Megillah means that they should read the Megillah. That's not appropriate. So instead we say lishmaya Megillah, their mitzvah is to hear it more. So now, ideally, as we mentioned, even though here he says that the best way is that the lady should make, is that you should make the bracha, but I did see elsewhere where it's actually not true. It's actually better that the lady should do it herself. So she should do it, and the bracha that she would make is lishmaya Megillah, like we said before. That if there's men and women, then obviously you want the man to make the bracha because he could say likraya Megillah. Yeah.
What if you're in a situation where you have to make the bracha? You can't get it through with let's say lady, you would say what?
For a man or for a lady?
For a lady.
Then you make the bracha lishmaya Megillah.
And for a man you would say
the regular bracha, yeah. There's no problem if you do it for them. It's just usually if a person is able to on their own, you should ask them if they could. Now sometimes they might not be comfortable. Just remember, and again, also if they make the wrong bracha, if the lady will do the regular bracha, she's yetzer. No. Ideally, she should do lishmaya, but if she makes the regular one, let's say you forget Yom Ha'Tzayim, you forget the nusach, you only have one bracha printed, do the regular one. Don't do it wrong. Okay, let's do Tezayim. No, I'm sorry, Yud Zayim. Okay, I actually had this question. Someone asked me, can I practice or read? Can I learn the Megillah this Shabbos? This week someone asked me. So what's the answer? So let's see. But Shabbos she'einei Purim. If it's a Shabbos that's not Purim, mutarin l'taltas Megillah. You're allowed to move around the Megillah. It's not muktzah. Why? Because you're not reading from it, right? And therefore you don't have to make a gzeda of that. You might carry a dal ramas. If it's Shabbos Purim, where a person we're afraid he's going to maybe have a shaila practice, bring it to the Rav so that tomorrow. So there we have more of an issue. But a regular Shabbos, it's like any other Sifrei Kodesh. So therefore, it's not muktzah. Now, one second. Yeah. Other people would say that on the Shabbos of Purim, where you're not Yotzeh, right? Some would say if you're Yotzeh, the Shabbos of Purim, even if I don't know if it can happen in today's day and age, but in theory, if it was Shabbos Purim, so then if you're going to be Yotzeh, B'diavad or even L'chatchila, so then we're afraid you might carry a Torah. If you're not going to be Yotzeh, so then it's Muktzah, and you decided before Shabbos that you're not using it because you're not Yotzeh anyways. But on a random Shabbos, it's a random like Divrei Torah, so there's no problem with carrying it and using it. Now, Mikal Makim, however, if let's say Sunday is Purim, which means Mitzvah Shabbos, you need it, so then, even if you have an Eidiv or things like that, Ein Lahavi B'Shabbos is a Megillah Beis HaKnesses, you shouldn't bring it to Shul. I feel Be'ir Shehi Mutukenes Be'eruvin, even if it has proper Eruvim, Mishum, to have a Meichin Mishabbos L'chol, not because of Muktzah, but because of Hachana. And I think there was once that the Rebbe spoke about this, that I forgot the exact verb, but something I didn't have time to look it up this year. Something along the line that if you prepare by bringing it to shul early, but you end up leaving it in a place where it gets like disgraced, better don't bring it. I don't remember the exact thing, but you have to. Sometimes people bring it early and then it ends up floating around and whatever. So the kids are like this: a random Shabbos, it's not a problem. If it's Shabbos Erev Purim, there's a little bit more room to be careful about what you're doing with it. If you're just learning from it, it seems like it will be okay. But if you're preparing and putting it somewhere where you're going to have it for later, so let's say you say, oh, let's take it down so I can look at it, and really you want to just have it ready for after Shabbos, that you can't do for the other reason of what's called hachana, that you're preparing